Hello, everyone, and welcome to the channel. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for 10,000 subscribers. It's been a while since we've done. I'm going to adjust this a little bit. It's been a while since we've done a live stream here, but I was looking at my schedule. I was like, it works out this week, and also it was last Saturday that we passed that great threshold. So I thought take a moment to talk about some things with the channel, and then I'll get to all your many questions. Good to see Jack from Jack Eternity. Great to see you, Jack. Thanks so much. It would be great to have you become a channel member. And Caleb, great to see you, Caleb, as well. If you don't know, Caleb just did a video with me and a few other of our friends on the Outbound Flight video. So that was quite a lot of fun. Chris, great to see you, Chris. Loved your book. Few things I want to talk about first is what am I planning to do next year? I'm finishing up a lot of stuff for this year. I got some series to talk about next year. I talked about some series I'm planning to start and then some series to continue next year. I did kind of do a video on that, but I've since added a few to the TBR because I've been finding some really good stuff recently at some bookstores. So I do have I do plan to read the kind of zombie series from John Ringo, which is the Under a Graveyard Sky series. I read the Black Tide Rising is what it's called. I read one of the standalones last year and loved it. So I can't wait to get to this series. I also plan to get to the Homecoming series by Orson Scott Card. I don't know how much I'm going to like it, but based off the pitch, I was like, it's worth it. And the books aren't that long. And then I also plan, now this is a new purchase. I just got this recently. It'll be in the next book haul video, but I plan to read the General series by S.M. Sterling and David Drake. I saw these at the bookstore and I was like, man, I think this looks like the kind of classic sci-fi fun that I think it'll be fun. So hopefully I'll get to that. And then one of my favorite authors is Michael Stackpole for fantasy. It's a trilogy plus a prequel that I plan to read as well. And then I plan to also get to David Drake's Lord of the Isles, which has a very shiny cover and makes it hard to see. But I'm a big fan of this cover and this series from Tor. I'm looking forward to reading this next year. And then I'm reading a David Weber book, and every time I read a David Weber, I'm like, oh my goodness, it's so long. And then I end up enjoying it. So I'm planning to start his Off Armageddon Reef series, which is the Safehold series. And then I plan to read the Cobra War trilogy. I read the first Cobra series a couple years ago, several years ago. Actually, it was like 2019 or 2020. So it's been a while, but I want to get back into that series because Tim Zone's one of my favorite authors. And then for all you Star Wars heads, you're like, what Star Wars books are you going to read next year besides the ones that are new releasing? Well, I do plan now, since I'll be finished because I have 7 as of this recording today. I have 7 Star Wars novels left to read for the EU, and I plan to read after those this year. I'll move to the kids books next year. I'll do the first will be the Boba Fett books, and then the Jedi Apprentice. I see someone in there ask Sun Eater when. Yes, I'll get to Sun Eater next year. That's the plan. That's actually a plan for the buddy read for the Awkward Silence Gang. Those of us who just did that Outbound Flight review, we're thinking that's some inside baseball we might be doing. We just have to figure out the specifics on that, but that's what we're thinking. So let me look at some of the comments here. Great to see you, Charlie. Thanks so much for being here. Looking forward to getting to your books. Tomer Sharon says, have I read the novel Encounter at Farpoint? I thought it was meh. No, I haven't really read many of the numbered TNG books. I really numbered any of the books except for Voyager. I haven't read that many because I've been focused on the books that take place after the series because that's when the authors could really tell a big story. But I'll get to the others eventually. Where am I at? Alex says, which John Grisham book should I read next out of these? We have The Runaway Jury, The Partner, or The Chamber. I'd say The Runaway Jury is the best of the 3, but they're all excellent reads. So there's that one. Dark Lord is present, says, I've read the first two Jedi Apprentice books. All character and story is mid, but really fun. Yeah, I read some of them as a little kid, but I I read some of them as a kid, but I don't remember much about them. Caleb says Sun Eater is arguably my most anticipated read for next year. I think, really hoping we can do that together. Uh, yeah, JD Sutter, great to see you. You said there's nothing wrong with any of those Grishams. I agree. Book chat with Pat. Pat, you're great. It says thank 10,000. So proud of you. Thank you so much, Pat. Glad to see your channel growing as well. Jack Eternity says sort of book related, but what did you think of the trailer for A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms? I think it looks great. A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is my favorite Martin Game of Thrones project, so I'm really excited to see what they do with the TV show for this. It's going to be 6 half-hour episodes, at which point I'm wondering, why didn't they just make it into a movie? Why didn't they just, make it a 2.5-hour movie instead of stretching it out into 6 half-hour episodes? That feels really ill-advised, and I think maybe they're worried that the R-rated nature of the TV show won't go to like a PG-13 movie. I don't know if they're going to try to make it more PG-13 because the novellas kind of are. They're more appropriate. So I don't know what exactly how that's going to work. I think it looks good. I think playing Egg is perfect. Is perfect casting for Egg. I'm excited for that. So I'm really excited for that. Roblox Gamer says, have you heard about the 2 Star Wars books, Legacy, adult novel, and Leia and Rey, and then the YA romance? Yes. So if you don't know what Roblox is referencing, New York Comic Con was this weekend, and just a couple of hours ago they did the panel for publishing where they talked about the comics and the manga and the novels. And they did announce 2 novels. They announced for the adult books through Random House Worlds, they announced Legacy, which is a book taking place between 8 and 9, and it's focusing on Rey and Leia. It's using Madeline Rowe as the author, who is a very reliable tie-in fiction, very reliable author for Random House. So that makes sense. The really curious one is the romance, which I believe is Eyes Like Stars is what it's called. And it is such a interesting move. One is to brand it as a Star Wars romance instead of just calling it a Star Wars YA book. But we have Star Wars romance YA books through the Disney Lucasfilm Press. I'll reach over. Like A Crash of Fate is just a romance that's YA. And this new Eyes Across Stars or Eyes Like Stars is a Star Wars YA romance, but it's through Delacorte, and they're branding it as a romance as opposed to this, which was from Disney Lucasfilm Press. So I have a couple questions. Are they still going to be publishing the YA through Disney Lucasfilm Press, or is all of the stuff, the YA, going to Delacorte, or is Delacorte only getting the specials? And is Disney Lucasfilm Press not? Like, I don't know how that publishing deal works. They didn't specify that, but that's really curious. I'm going to say that's not what I'm most excited for Star Wars. I'd say I'm more excited for the Mike Chen book and book 2 of the trilogy that's coming out, the Reign of the Empire trilogy. But I'll still read those. So hopefully they'll be entertaining. On that, let's see where we're at. Dusty Smith says, you read the literary classics series I saw in a hall rack a while. Speaking of Wimpy Kid. I have the first one. I just couldn't get to it. Stuff happened in life, and I benched a lot of stuff, and that one I'll get to eventually. Caleb says the Legacy cover looks really similar to Master and Apprentice. I'd see a lot of people pointing that out. Yeah, it doesn't have quite the pastel painting feel that Master and Apprentice does, but it has the color scheme that Master and Apprentice has. It's a little too photorealistic for my taste, but I still think it looks good. It's not bad. Hoping that one's similar feel to that one. I think that it will be a good dynamic for Leia and Rey. Yeah, although I will say that's something that should have come out between 8 and 9. That's what we should have had book-wise leading up to episode 9, was this type of a book. I don't know why they had to wait till after to get it. Chrome Vader says, do you have any book recommendations in the vein of the Firefly TV show, Adventure, Motley Crue, Found Family, for a Christian reader that's not Star Wars or Star Trek? All right. So the Found Family kind of adventure Motley Crue. Let me think for a second. Let me just look. I'm looking through my fantasy and sci-fi shelves. That's a difficult one. Shannara, in a way, is kind of it's very Shannara is very appropriate, and Shannara by Terry Brooks does have some found family, but also not found family because there's a lot of dynasty stuff. So maybe that would be in there. Um, so maybe that one would be a good fit for you. Thinking through my sci-fi shelves, maybe the Icarus Saga. That's not a good solid recommendation. Let me have some time to think on that one because thinking on my feet on that is a little bit more difficult. So let me get back to you, Chrome Vader. Jack Eternity says, "What is the next media tie-in franchise you want to get into?" Um, well, I'll say there's two that I'm in the middle of that like I've been in the middle of for years and just can't move past and need to, and that's Halo and the Forgotten Realms. I really want to read more of those. Just they keep getting sidelined for other things. I keep having other things pop up in life, so maybe I'll get to those eventually. But outside of that, I wouldn't mind reading some of the Firefly novels that have come out recently. I've not watched the TV show much, but that's the media time fiction I like to get more into. John Fuhrer, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, says, "I just finished Andor Season 2 yesterday. Rebellions are built on hope." Oh, Andor Season 2 had just a legendary run of episodes with episodes like 8 through 12. Like 1 through 7 were entertaining, but 8 through 12 were just incredible. And I'm amazed that that it works so well. That it's like the top Star Wars television episodes, some of them. Like episode 9 won the Emmy for writing and it absolutely deserves it. Not for the reasons everyone's saying. Everyone's saying just for the speech, which was a good speech from Mon Mothma, but it was so good because of the excellent way that had the tension of the thriller without action necessarily. So that's what I'd say with that. Hello, Adam and Laker. Love you too, dude. Roblox Gamer says, "Is Master and Apprentice still your favorite Star Wars adult novel, and Battle Scar still your least favorite?" For the canon, that is, I assume you're referencing. For the EU, it would be totally different answers. And I would say my favorite EU book is better than Master and Apprentice, and the worst EU book is worse than Battle Scars. That being said, yes, Battle Scars I still think is the weakest, although that Mace Windu book that just came out, it's pretty close with it. And then I would also say Thrawn just has been at the top tier and has stayed there, so it oscillates between Thrawn and Master and Apprentice, I would say. Let's see. Adam says, "Have you read Reign of the Empire Mask of Fear, the prequel to Andor?" Yes. So here's what I would say. It's not an official prequel in the sense that you're like, oh my goodness, it's explaining stuff. It's tying in a ton in that way. It's more seeing those characters of Saw Gerrera, Bail Organa, and Mon Mothma after the events of Revenge of the Sith. That's what you're seeing, is you want to see those three characters after Revenge of the Sith. Not so much a prequel to Andor in a direct way. So I don't want people to get their hopes up. That being said, it kind of fits thematically because it's got the political themes and stuff. And I have read it and it's excellent. It's my favorite Alexander Freed book outside of maybe his novelization. But again, that's kind of different. Pizza Tread says, "Is McKay's really the best bookstore?" Yes, it is. Absolutely. It's the best used bookstore I've ever been to, and I've been to a lot, and they just have an incredible selection. I go there once or twice a month. I load up on books. Their prices are getting a little bit more expensive, especially for hardcovers. Mass markets, you can still get some great deals on mass markets. Trade paperbacks and hardcovers are a little bit more expensive, but they're still a great bookstore, and they have more selection than any other bookstore usually because they're just bigger. They just have the space to have it, whereas other bookstores feel the need to be smaller. Kevin says, "Just joined. Hello. Haven't heard many comics reviews. Not into that. Well, it's mostly just because I'm really a book channel. But I've read some of the comics. I've read a few of the canon comics, and I've enjoyed them. I just comics are more expensive, and they're harder to find the bind-ups, and you don't see them in used bookstores quite as much, and it's just not as much my thing. So I try to get into them when I can, and trying to get into manga as well, but it's just not really the thing. I'm really more into novels personally. Pollock says, "Have you ever read The Witcher?" No, I don't know how I'll feel about it because it's a translated work, and I just don't. Based off what I've heard about the books and heard about the game and the TV show, I'm just not sure if I'll enjoy it. Maybe. Let me know if you think I will. Adam says, Andor's Peak. I agree. Hokies fan says, finishing the Sanctuary book, Bad Batch, and man, Celia Mountain is a weirdo. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. I did enjoy the Sanctuary novel. I thought it was fun. I thought it was entertaining. Lamar Giles did a good job with it. It's not, top tier, but it was an entertaining read. Caleb from Caleb Likes Book says, the back half of Andor may be my favorite on-screen Star Wars ever, like even better than the movies. Pretty much, it's up there. It's up there. For sure, the top of the television. Top of the movies, I don't know. I still don't know if episode 9 of Andor season 2 rivals the child episode from Mandalorian season 1, episode 2. One of those is my favorite television episode. But in terms of like series of episodes, absolutely. Chris, yeah, it is well done. Jack says, I'm curious, what made you want to be a history teacher, especially since you majored in politics? So when I was younger, I loved the movie Gettysburg, and I loved reading history books. And then my grandparents, who lived in Northern Virginia, decided 2 summers in a row to take me, I think it was in a row, 2 summers that they would take me on trips up and down the East Coast. We went to Pennsylvania, Delaware, Virginia, DC. We went to major sites, whether they were historical sites for battles, particularly Civil War, which was what I was into, or they would take me into, and this was when I was like elementary age. I was like 4th or 5th grade. They would take me to these major events, these battlefields or these landmarks or these, like Mount Vernon or something. And it was just so much fun. And it really sparked my love of history. And then I love reading as well. And I love writing. And I took AP classes in high school and loved them. So when you combine all that together, I realized I wanted to do history. I wanted to do politics in college because I didn't just want a history degree. I wanted a little bit of diversity to my degree. I did go get a master's in history. So yeah, I've been a teacher ever since, and I love it. I'm in my 4th year of teaching, 1st year at my new school. Thank you for that, Jack. AJ says, reading Master and Apprentice and need a Count Dooku and Qui-Gon Jinn book. Yeah, I think that would be really good. We do have a Count Dooku book, the script, if you're reading scripts, I forgot what it's called, the Dooku Jedi Lost book, so you could read that, but I agree, we could use a novel. Hey, bring in Kevin Scott, have him write the novel as well. Adam says, I haven't read it yet, but I'm so excited to read it and the 2 more of the trilogy of Reign of the Empire. Yeah, I think it's worth the read. It's not so much actiony, and there's a few elements of it I didn't like, but it's still, I think, well worth it. John Fuhrer says, it'd be cool to see more connections between the events of Rebels and Andor. Yeah, it's, they kind of hinted at some stuff in Andor, but I knew going in, Tony Gilroy is not a canon fanatic. He is not like watching the TV shows as much. He is not like super into the books and comics. So I wasn't expecting him. I would have loved if he had done more references and connections and stuff because that's my style. But I understand why he didn't, and so I don't necessarily fault him. But I would have loved to have seen that as well. Maybe we'll get some in the novels and stuff. Certainly, you'll see some. Like we'll see Mon Mothma in Ahsoka season 2. So maybe we'll see that. Roblox says, this is random. Do you have pets? Not myself. My parents got me a dog when I was in middle school, and that dog is still alive. She's like 14 and barely alive, but she's alive. And so I was actually taking care of her this week while they were out of town. But no, I don't have a dog because I'm in an area that, like, in my job, I'm at school for 9 or 10 hours a day, so I couldn't let the dog out, and I'm in an apartment, so I can't let the dog roam free. So it's just not currently the best move for it. Well, we have a lot of people in. Let me see if I can get to all these. Dark Lord Present, have you read Malazan? Oh gosh, and Alex is in the chat too. I read the first two books, and I have a review on the channel of the second book. I don't think I reviewed the first book, but I did review the second book, and just it's not my style of writing. And I want to love it because, Alex, who's in the chat, loves it, and so many other people like Ryan love it, but nope, can't get into Malazan yet. AJ says, have you visited any bookstores in London? I've never been to England before, so I can't recommend any. I'm sorry. I can recommend bookstores in the US, in the South, and in some of the Midwest, but that's about it. Adam says, to be honest, I couldn't care less for Mando anymore. I'm burnt out of him. I understand. I think it's going to be fun. I just didn't, even when I don't think the story's the best, I think the Mando series is so much fun and so enjoyable. And so I think that, and at least Dave and John are going to be respectful of the Star Wars brand, I feel. Even when they turn in a subpar story, it's still, it's not like offensive like some Star Wars stories. So I wouldn't, I won't write it off, and I think it'll be fun. And certainly, I think it's going to make a lot of merchandising money. The new movie. I'm more interested in Ahsoka season 2 personally. I'm more excited for that. That's funny. I am not. Alex, I'm not reading more Malazan. I'm sorry. Hokies says, "Oh, just curious. What are your thoughts on the upcoming Vader novel by Adam Christopher? Excited for it? Absolutely. I'm really ready to read it. I have the weird opinion that I only liked his book. What is it? Shadows of the Sith. Yeah, Shadow of the Sith. I only liked it, whereas I know so many people who loved it, and they were like, "This is the best book since the EU," and I was like, I enjoyed it. So maybe this one will blow me away. We'll see. But I'm excited to read it. Let's see. Chrome Vader says, another question. What sort of things hook you the fastest at the beginning of books? And do you do sample reads at the first pages before buying a book? No, I don't. I read the back. I might read the back blurb. This is what I buy books on. I buy books on the author, if I've heard other authors talk about them, or other reviewers, or based off the author name, and the series pitch. And sometimes I'll look at the back cover for like the blurb, or I'll look at the front cover and the actual physical cover. Gonna be honest, the reason I picked up the general series was because of the cover, not because I necessarily read any of the book yet. So that's usually it. I don't read the beginning of a book before I start it. I don't go in blind. I usually know the general idea of a book, except for Grisham. Grisham books, I go in 100% blind. But otherwise, I at least know what the pitch is. I know what the basic premise of the book is. Hello, Jesse. Hello, Ben. It says, what are your top 3 books out of the Dune series that I've read? Obviously, number 1 would be Dune. And then below it, I would put the Schools of Dune, the Sisterhood of Dune, and the other 2 books in that trilogy. I think those are excellent, all of them. Do not watch the TV show. It is so unfaithful. It's so different. It's they inspired by no, it's not. It's totally different. But that trilogy is great. And then after that, it would be the other Kevin Anderson books that are good, or Dune, God Emperor of Dune, which I loved. God Emperor of Dune. That one was so fun, and I was not expecting. Where am I at now? Jack says, "Who are your favorite booktubers to watch?" Regularly, in terms of the big ones, I will watch Mike from Mike's Book Reviews. I will read. I will watch I Samwise. I'll watch Leslie from Leslie Reed, or the Nerdy Narrative is what her series, her videos called. I watch the Reformed Reader. I watch Caleb Likes Books, his stuff. The one I will say, and Brian Lee Durfee. I watch Brian Lee Durfee a lot. The one I never miss any of his videos is Mike from Mike's Book Reviews, but that's more because I'm trying to learn from him and stuff. But everyone else I try to watch, but I can't watch everything. I have a list of like 50 booktubers that I follow. I just can't get to all of them. Let's see. Is it lagging? I don't know if it's lagging. Let's hope it's not. Let's see. Jacob says, "Are you a Jimmy Kimmel fan?" No. What I'll say is that I enjoy when he does interviews with actors, and so I'll watch that. But otherwise, he's not funny, so I don't really watch him. Uh, Roblox says, "I really want a book about Ezra and Thrawn between Rebels and Ahsoka." I would love that too. I would love to see that. We're not going to get that until after Ahsoka comes out. Dave really doesn't like Dave Filoni, does not like to reveal stuff like that unless it's like unless he has a plan. So, and he has a plan for those characters, but like he's not going to do that book until after the Ahsoka stuff's over, and then he'll be like, "All right, you can go back and fill that stuff in." So we'll get that book eventually, most likely. It'll just be after the series is done. I would be shocked if we actually got that anytime soon. Let's see. Ian says, "Do you like any mangas, animes?" I've not really watched much. I've tried My Hero Academia. I have a few issues I've read. I loved what I read of One Piece. I read the first arc, the first like what was it, 14, 12 issues, whatever it was. The first I think 12, not issues, what it's called. Volumes? The first 12 volumes of One Piece, and that's it. And I know that's like the most basic American answer for a manga, but that's really all I've gotten into so far. Pizza Reed says, "Charles Soule is my favorite Star Wars author, changed my mind." Well, the thing is, usually you have to have more than like 2 books, unless you're counting the comics, which if you're counting the comics, I'll understand. I would say that usually I'm like, you have to have like 4 or 5 books to be a favorite author for a franchise, that is. So, but yes, Charles Soule is excellent. His 2 novels he's turned in for Star Wars, Light of the Jedi and Trials of the Jedi, are top tier. So he's he's a great author. I would need a few more from him personally, but he's great. Jack says, "Do you plan on making a New York City Comic Con book news video?" Not for that exclusively, unless there's some more announcements that come out, which I don't think there's going to be, because just for 2 books, it's not necessarily worth it. What I'll probably do is I'll make an October book news video, and I'll cover other stuff that's announced in October. So I'll do a news video with this information, just not exclusively for that. Where am I at? Dark Lord Presence says, "Have you ever read Simon Scarecrow? Really good historical fiction of Romans in Britain." No, but let me write that down. Simon Scarecrow, because I will probably like that. I'm writing down. I write down the recommendations because I will forget about them. All right. So I'll put that on the list to look out for. Benjamin Miller says, "What are your religious conviction? Can you share how your faith shapes your reading experiences?" Sure. I've talked about this in some videos before. I am a Christian, and certainly I believe that there's certain worldviews that I believe, and believe that books should follow. I have certain convictions about the way that view of books handle language and sexuality and violence in some ways. And so I have certain convictions on that aspect. I'm willing to read books that don't follow those because I'm trying to be a good reviewer and trying to read books to tell people what books are like and to warn if they include that stuff. But I certainly have preferences, and there are a few books that I'm like, just it's not worth it to read. But generally, I'm still trying to read it. I try to be almost like Plugged In a way. If you know, Plugged In is for movies, and they do movie reviews. And Josh from the Reformed Reader very much does the same thing, although he's much more focused on that. Whereas for me, I'm just a book reviewer, and I sometimes throw in the religious conviction stuff. Bull Run, hey Bull Run, haven't seen you in a while. Says, "Have you played any video games lately?" Actually, yes. So this past week, I was with my I was at my parents' house while they were out of town, and I was taking care of the dog. And I pulled out our old Mario Galaxy game and played through the whole first game, and I loved it. And I'm not much of a gamer, but I replayed that. And it was a lot of fun. Although I got frustrated at a couple of levels. And then I am doing Civilization 5, which I'm actually playing with Alex, which is fun. And I have a few other things I do, like the guild, but nothing new. Caleb says Dune Messiah is better than Dune. You're wrong. Adam says you're the only person I watch. Thank you so much, Adam. That's very kind of you. Oh my goodness, the chat just jumped a lot. All right, I might not be able to get up to everything, but hopefully I'll keep up with everything. JD Sutter says, have you heard of Archives of Anthropo by John White? It's very a Narnia-esque series from a few decades ago that I thought was quite enjoyable, but never hear talked about. Never heard of it, but I'm going to write it down. All right, I have that written down to get to. Thank you, Ben. Mark says you should read and review The Martian Springs by Michael Lindsay Williams. Well, man, y'all are just trying to throw so much at me. Martian Springs. All right. Dong says I'd love to see a review of the Space Trilogy. I'd love to get that too eventually. This Oracle Spider says, how often do you go to the library at all? Goose egg, because I want to own my books. I don't want to have to borrow them from a library. I don't believe that the library should have my books. I want to own the books. So I go to the bookstore often. I don't ever go to the library. I used to go to the library so that I have a quiet space to read, but I would bring my own books with me. So I don't go there to browse. John Furr recommends the Vinland Saga. I've heard some good things about it. The Vinland Saga. Adam says, I want to get into One Piece, but it's so overwhelming. The good thing is it's split up into chunks, so you can read like an arc of it, and it's only like 12 volumes, and so it's not too long. Man, Alex, you're just trying to stir trouble. Jack says, plan on reading the Idan trilogy at some point. Philip Chase, fellow booktuber. Yes, I would love to read that trilogy. I just haven't gotten to it yet, but absolutely, I've heard great things, and some of my friends that review his books are big fans of the Idan trilogy. So like, they really think he did a good job. So, and of course, Philip Chase is just the best guy ever. So I want to get to it eventually. Matthew McGinty says, are you planning on finishing the Accursed King series? I can't find books 6 and 7 anywhere, and I'm too lazy to go and order them online. So I just can't find book 6 and 7 anywhere. I would read them if I could find them. I just can't find them anywhere. So once I find them, I will read them because I enjoy the series. I love the series, but just can't find any more. All right. Bull Run says, what's your favorite nonfiction book? Well, obviously, if we take out the Bible as kind of like the obvious answer, I guess for biographies, I really like the biography of H.W. Bush. For autobiographies, it'd be the autobiography of W. Bush. And then if we're just talking about general history type books, I don't know. I haven't really given that much thought. Kaladin Stormbringer, that's a great name there. Says, congrats, thanks for selling me on the Kingsbridge series. I finished book 2 last month. Hopefully I can get to a Column of Fire next year. That's great. Column of Fire is the one book that you're like, is this technically Kingsbridge? But it's actually still a lot of fun. And I still think Evening in the Morning is also a great read. And Armor of Light is a great read. So I hope you enjoy those as well. Pollock says, did you read High Republic comics? I read the Phase 1 adult comics. I have some of the Phase 1 kids comics. Haven't read any of the others because haven't seen them in used bookstores, and I'm not going to go out and buy them new at the moment just because that's not the focus. But they were okay. They weren't great, though. I was kind of disappointed in most of the comics, to be honest. Kaladin says, what is your most disappointing read this year? Oh, well, disappointing. Is that the same as worst? Because the worst book I read was a book called Shigidi and the Brass Head of a Bulafon. Oh, that book was so bad. Disappointing? I don't know. Because there's a lot of like 2 or 3 star books where I'm like, man, out of 5, where I was like, man, I wanted to like it. It was just okay, or it was bad. But so maybe some of those. Bazinga says, are you planning to read Cormac McCarthy? Eventually, because Brian Lee Durfee loves Cormac McCarthy, and he really recommends him. Chrome Vader says, do you have other hobbies, interests outside of books and teaching history? Not really. That's how I'm able to read so much, is just by making this my hobby outside of work. No, I really don't. I occasionally I'll hop on with the Awkward Silence Gang for spaces, and I might play something while I talk with them. But outside of that, no. So I'm sorry, I just don't. Spidey Skywalker says, what do you expect of the new Darth Vader novel, Master of Evil? I expect it to be entertaining. I don't expect it to be super revelatory. I expect there to be a ton of videos uh, from people saying this is worse than the James Lucino Darth Vader stuff, or this is better than it. I expect those types of videos from people. Um, as I said earlier, I only liked Shadow of the Sith. I didn't love it. I just liked it. So I'm expecting to like this. I would love if I love it, but we'll see. Derek says, the cat chat jumped. Hope I can find my spot. Where is it? Derek says, would you ever consider doing books on the books in the Bible? Maybe. This is mostly a fiction channel. And if I do nonfiction, it's nonfiction books about books usually. So I've been focusing just on fiction. So maybe one day I would do it. That's just not been the focus yet, but maybe someday. Roblox says, I have a hot take that I didn't really like Master and Apprentice. I just found it a bit slow and didn't like the additional characters. See, I love that stuff, but I understand what other people won't like about it, but that's personal. I love it. Bull Run, I've never played the Doom games. Jack Attorney says, I think you would like the game Stardew Valley, cozy farming simulator. Okay. Roblox, are you planning to do an updated canon ranking once we get to 60 canon books? Maybe. It depends on how fast we get there. If we get there in like a year, I'm going to wait a little longer because I don't want to do a new ranking video every year because that's going to be ridiculous and it takes so much time. But every like 2 or 3 years, absolutely. That's about when it's worth doing it. The problem is I don't want the channel just because those are the videos that perform the best is the Star Wars book rankings. And I want other stuff to have a chance to breathe and do well. So that's why I'm trying to finish up the EU, go to the kids' books a little bit and get to other stuff and let other videos breathe a little bit. Caleb says, I want to see you try and play Bloodborne. That would be entertaining to me. I know it would be entertaining to you. It would not be entertaining to me. I'm sorry. Great books, guy. Great to see you. Any chance you've read the Ian Fleming James Bond novels? Oh my goodness, I would love to read those. I've seen those in the bookstore and just haven't pulled the trigger to buy them. Pulled the trigger because they have the. Anyway, I would love to read the Fleming books, but just haven't yet. But they're really short, so they should be like fun thrillers to slot in. But that's it's not media time because he wrote the books before they started the movies. But still, that would be a lot of fun to get into. Laker Goat says, how do you feel about the Lord of the Rings trilogy? Just finished The Hobbit and want to get into them. I respect the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and there's so much entertainment value to them, but the style is just not my style. And so I respect the trilogy for what it's done. I don't personally love it as much. And you would think I committed fantasy heresy in my fantasy ranking video when I only put it in the honorable mentions and not the top 10. But I'm like, guys, this is for enjoyability, not for objective quality. And I'm like, for enjoyability, it's not as enjoyable as other series. That's just how I feel. Nate says, will you please read Altered Carbon and Neuromancer? I'm excited to hear what you think. Also, I am reading the Icarus Hunt series. It's awesome for Sod book. I'm glad you're reading the Icarus Hunt series. It's so good, so entertaining. Not his best work, but it's solid, entertaining reads. I will get to Altered Carbon and Neuromancer because I've heard good things about those eventually. Alex also says, I think you'd love Starview Valley. Oh, yeah, maybe. Caleb says, LOTR is incredible. Still one of my favorite series out there. Okay, Adam. No, I'm not addressing that. Laker Goat says, I've spent so much money on books because of Jonathan Caleb. That's the problem with BookTube is you end up spending so much money on books and it's a lot. So I would, yeah, it's a lot of money. Bull Run says, have you read Grendel? I don't know. What is Grendel? Let me know update me on what that is. Jacob Phillips says, have you ever read any of the Richard Sharp books by Bernard Cornwell? I don't agree with his worldview, but interesting Napoleonic historical fiction. I know I have some friends who love Bernard Cornwell's books, particularly the Sharps series. I would love to get into it. I think once I've knocked through some of my current historical fiction and thriller reads, that will be very much after those on the channel once I can get to those. But yes, I do really want to read those because I've heard great things. Roblox Gamer says Dark Disciple is my favorite book I've ever read. Wow, that's high praise. I mean, it's a great book, but that's great. Benjamin Miller, man, you're going into the deep theological questions here. What do you consider yourself a theologically reformed reader, Christian, similar to the Reformed reader. That's a whole can of worms there. It's a whole can of worms. In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. Because like there's some parts of Reformed theology that I agree with, and some that I don't. So it's a big can of worms there. Spider says, which of the books I sent you have you started? None yet, because I already had scheduled out for the year, but I do plan to read Thinner first of the ones that you sent, because I think that'll be the next one. But I do plan to read Thinner. Great Books Guy says, oh no, it just jumped a lot. Says, Bright Suns, Jonathan, I recently took a trip to the outpost on Batu. I had a nice conversation with several characters about Vai Maradi, Dakondar, and Oga Gara. Thought you'd appreciate it. Yes, I did the same thing. It was so much fun. Talking to the characters there is so much fun, especially if you reference the books, because they're like, ooh, we can make book references and stuff. Bull Run says, have you seen the Minecraft movie? Yes, I didn't like it. I'm sorry. Adam says, what? James Lucino, Vader's bad? No, I'm saying that there's going to be videos when the new Vader book comes out. There's going to be comparison videos saying this is bad and this is good, or this is good and this bad. That's what's going to happen with it. Sam Zettel, I think that's how you pronounce it, says, have you read Circa by Madeline Miller, and would you recommend? I'm interested. I've heard some things about Madeline Miller's books that make me hesitant to read her books, but maybe we'll see. Bullrat says, favorite horror book. I'm starting The Stand. I want to read that. My favorite horror book is, I guess it's a trilogy. It's the I'm Not a Serial Killer trilogy. That's my favorite. I would also say that my favorite individual book would be The Violence by Delilah Dawson. That book was incredible. Reformed Reader, hey, great to see you, says, do you have a certain number of pages you try to read daily? Yes. My minimum per day is usually about 100, unless I have something going on, in which case it doesn't matter. But usually I try to do 100. If I'm lucky, I can get up to 200. That's the goal, is 200. But my minimum's usually about 100. Jack says, favorite YouTubers outside of BookTube. So I watch a lot of movie news stuff and politics stuff. So for movie news, I watch Grace Randolph. I watch John Campea. I watch Sean Chandler. I watch sometimes John Roca for the hot mic. So those are the major ones that I've. And Dan Murrell. Those are the big ones that I watch a lot. And then for politics stuff, I watch The Morning Meeting every day, which is a political thing from Two Way with like Mark Halperin and Sean Spicer and Dan Turrentine. And then I also watch a lot of Megyn Kelly. Mr. Coolio says, Jonathan, congratulations on 10,000 subscribers. Wanted to come in the stream, and thank you for getting me back into the reading this past year. I've been loving it. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. First Line Library, what is your favorite tie-in novel? I'm going to give you two answers. So my favorite book that is a tie-in novel is Kenobi. It's brilliant. It's by John Jackson Miller. Brilliant. It is a Western, but it's also Star Wars. It's great. But it is not the best example of media tie-in fiction. The best example of media tie-in fiction is Catalyst by James Lucino, because it adds and elevates the story of Rogue One so much. Even before we had Andor, Catalyst, anyone who had read Catalyst liked Rogue One more. It adds so much to it. So that's what I would say. Roblox Gamer says, do you ever think we will get Acolyte sequels, as I know you weren't a fan of the prequel books? I don't know how the sales were. I would guess they weren't amazing. So I would guess no, but I'm not going to rule it out. Great Books Guy says, how is the conservatory holding up? My house has turned into a living library. It's out of control. I'm going to have to get some new bookshelves, because I'm out of bookshelf space. I have room in my apartment that I could just, I don't have much outside of the conservatory. Like, I don't have a lot of furniture. It's really just this and the bed. So, and my reading chair. So I can add more in here. I have the space in the apartment. I just don't want to have to set up new bookshelves and tear them down when I inevitably move one day. Ben says, Cuts 10,000s. Do you have a book you love that the majority of the world doesn't like? I have some of those. Let me get through my list real quick. So, not everybody loves the Fate of the Jedi. I love the Fate of the Jedi series. In terms of individual books, I absolutely loved Mall Lockdown, which not everybody loves. I loved Knight Errant. Not loved. I really, really enjoyed Knight Errant, and not everybody loves Knight Errant like I do. I love the Rune Lords saga, the slump of the Wheel of Time. You know, some people hate those. I love the slump. I think it's great. It's not my favorite, but it's that. And then, yeah, those are some examples I would say. I should do a whole video on that. Let me do a whole video on that because I think that's what that topic needs. Donk says, "What book do you remember DNFing the fastest?" I just recently DNF'd a book, not because it was bad, because I was just not in the mood for it. That was the second Tim Akers book. I really enjoyed the first one in his trilogy, the Hallowed War trilogy, but I started the second one. I was like, I'm not reading that right now. I just wasn't in the right headspace. But also, I DNF'd Atlas Shrugged because I started it and I was like, this is 1,000 pages. I don't have the time for that right now. And it was a lot slower than I thought. So that was a quick DNF. But outside of that, I don't DNF books. I DNF maybe a book a year, maybe one book a year. Outside of that, I read everything that I read to completion. That's just what I do. Chris says, love the LOTR movies, but the books only made my honorable mentions the year I read them as well. Thank you, Chris. The meme from The Office. Thank you. I'm so glad someone else feels that way. Bull Run says, started playing Stardew Valley. Agreed, like it. It just jumped a bit. Let's see if I know where I'm at. Laker Goat says, Legends Darth Bane trilogy or Legends Thrawn trilogy? Legends Thrawn trilogy. Easily. Jack says, have you watched Talking Story? Probably my favorite booktuber. I've watched some of Talking Story. I think they do a good job over there. Have you read the novel Red Phoenix? I have not. What's the genre on that? I don't know that one, Jesse. Bull Run says, have you seen Rings of Power? I have watched the first season. Just didn't get to the second season yet. I didn't dislike it like a lot of people did, but I didn't love it. AJ says, have you read 1984 by George Orwell? No, it's somewhere in that crazy stack over there, but I want to get to it eventually. Caleb says, oh, Talking Story is one of the ones you watch every video. Oh, interesting. AJ says, have you read War of the Worlds? That's also one, although I think War of the Worlds, is that on my November TBR? It is. So that's on my November TBR. You learned something new. Bullrun says, are you still reading any Stephen King books? You just don't want to anymore. I read one earlier this year. It was The Mist. I have a few more to read eventually, but I'm not like rushing to put them on this because everybody talks about Stephen King. They don't need another person talking about Stephen King necessarily. That probably would get me more views on the channel, but that's not necessarily the thing I'm most interested in. So I want to read what I'm interested in. Dark Lord Present says, oh no, Grace Randolph facepalm. Okay. Her movie reviews I disagree with most of the time, but her business analysis on Movie Math I think is really good. That's why I really appreciate it. Are you still reading One Piece? Haven't won one. Yeah, once I moved, I didn't buy any more, and I just haven't gotten back into it. I have 3 more volumes, 13, 14, 15. And I need to buy more volumes before I start it up again. But I want to because I loved reading One Piece. That was so delightful. Bull Run says, do you watch Destiny? No, I do not watch Destiny at all. Laker says, finished Ahsoka yesterday. I really enjoyed it. If you're talking about the book, absolutely. I think it's by far the best book that E.K. Johnston's written. Goes downhill from there, but that's her best one by far. Roblox says, would you rather get a book about Plo Koon or Kit Fisto? I think we're more likely to get one about Plo Koon because the people at Lucasfilm seem to like him better, but I would prefer one about Kit Fisto because I liked his character in the Clone Wars show. Great Books Guy says, just curious how you would rank the 6 Frank Herbert Dune novels if you happen to know. I've read 5 thus far. Don't think I'll continue with the expanded series. Oh, that's too bad because the expanded stuff I like as much. For the original 4 that I've read, because I haven't read 5 or 6 yet, I would put Dune at the top. Loved it. Gone Emperor. Loved it. Children of Dune is fine, and didn't care for Dune Messiah. Bull Run says, have you read the Federalist Papers or the Communist Manifesto? Yes on the Federalist Papers, no on the Manifesto. Kevin says, you brought up political news. Ever try Breaking Points? I haven't. I don't know what Breaking Points is. Also on the topic, political thriller you like. The Pelican Brief is kind of a political thriller, I guess. If you're talking about books, I haven't read many political thrillers, to be honest. That's actually what my dad reads. My dad is a huge political thriller reader, so he reads like a lot of that stuff. He reads David Baldacci and Brad Thor and CJ Box, and I don't know if CJ Box is political thriller, but he's thrillers, and Joel C. Rosenberg. So my dad's into that stuff. I just haven't gotten into that yet, but I would love to one day. Benjamin, it jumped again. Sorry. Benjamin says, I appreciate your content. Success. If you could do something other than teach history, what would it be? I would love to serve, to work for a publisher in some way. That would be a dream job. But if that's not available and teaching's not available, I don't know what I'd do. I really don't know. I think I'm meant to be a teacher and meant to be a book reviewer. Laker says, what's your favorite fast food restaurant? Chick-fil-A. Jack Terry says, what inspired you to make a booktube channel? A couple of things. One is I was watching Daniel Green and Murphy Napier, and I loved their channels at the time, still do. And I was inspired by them. And then also I watched Murphy's video on making money on booktube, and I was like, maybe I could do that too. So that's what inspired me. Have you ever had a chance to watch Visions? I watched the first season. It's the manga anime style is just not my cup of tea as much. There were some good episodes in there. I am excited for the third season because they're following up on some stuff that I liked. Adam says, I thought War of the Worlds was a crap movie. Yeah, I have not heard anything good about that. Samwise, great to see you. Says, I just wanted to say huge congrats. Thank you so much, Samwise. I love your channel. I love your content. You're great. Donk says, do you find it hard to enjoy a book when the author's subject is anti-Christian or the author clearly has an agenda, it's opposed to Christianity? Absolutely. I absolutely have troubles with that. If it's just a, atheistic book or, from that perspective, it's okay. But when it's directly opposed to it, that's when it makes it kind of hard to stomach it. First Line Library says, what time period in history are you currently teaching? We are in the Age of Exploration in my AP class, and in my honors class, we are in the pre-World War I era, basically. Oh, Jesse, the book you were talking about is about World War III. Okay, I'll have to put that in because that sounds like fun. Dark Lord says, top 5 favorite Sith and Jedi. Oh man, that's let me think. For Sith, my favorite Sith is certainly Sidious. I guess I would put trying to think Old Republic, maybe Bane and Revan in there for Sith, maybe. For Jedi, it would be Qui-Gon Jinn. I also love Obi-Wan. And would I throw in some EU Jedi as well? I love Corran Horn, so maybe Corran. AJ says, if you make a book if you have to make a book for a Star Wars book, who would the author be and what would the story be about? Okay, so if I was designing a Star Wars, I've actually made some pitches. I've made pitches for some Star Wars book ideas I've had. I would love to see Christy Golden come back and tell a story featuring some of the characters from Inferno Squad and some of the characters from Leia, Princess of Alderaan. And that was Claudia Gray book. But I'd love her to write that. I have a pitch for that I would love to see. But I don't think that's ever going to happen. But I would love to see that happen. I also have other ideas. Like I'd love for John Jackson Miller and Delilah Dawson and one other person, maybe Callan Scott, to do like a 9-book series like they used to do in the EU. I would love to see that happen as well. Bull Run says the favorite characters in the Dune books. Oh, interesting question. Favorite characters in the Dune books. I really like the House Atreides people, but I also like following all the different Harkonnens. The Carino house, just haven't gotten as much into. Maybe Lady Jessica would be my favorite. Jessica, and maybe Duncan, Idaho. Duncan, Idaho is great many, many times in God Emperor. That's what I'll say. Mark says, uh, what do you think of the Aftermath books? I'm currently reading them, and I think it's such a fun and captivating read. I know you talked about Uncanny Records. Yes, I love that trilogy. Aftermath is so much fun. They messed up the marketing of those books, which hurt them in the publicity. They're so much fun. Great Books Guy says, did you see there was a new Star Wars canon book announced? I did. That should be a lot of fun. That comes out next summer. I have watched Bull Run. I have watched the movies. Have not read the books yet. Samwise says, Jonathan, when will you read any Andrew Clavin? I think you'd like his mystery novels, but his fantasy is also excellent. So, Samwise, literally every time I go to the bookstore, I try to find Andrew Clavin books, and they never have them, ever. And it's so hard to find. I would love to read his mystery books. That's like when Christmas comes. That's what I'm most interested in. I actually own one of his nonfiction ones. That came out a couple of years ago about using like the literary elements connecting to the Bible. I forgot what it's called. I haven't read that one yet, but yes, I want to read Andrew Clavin. I know you are such a big Andrew Clavin fan, and I would like to read more of his books as well. Jack says, next big fantasy series you plan on reading? The next big one I really plan on getting to, I have the Dorini series I want to read more of. I want to read that series. I want to read more of the Saga of Recluse and the Lord of the Isles series by David Drake. Oh, and the Michael Stackpole Dragon Crown cycle. Charlie, you'd never had Chick-fil-A before? Oh my goodness. Oh, it's so good. It's most excellent. Bull Run says, have you ever thought about writing a fantasy sci-fi book? Absolutely. I would love to. I'm still going to work on that eventually. Benjamin says, how can we support you? Well, one is subscribing, which I think most of you have, obviously, watching in videos and commenting and stuff. If you can become a channel member, that'd be great. If you could become a channel member at any level, I have the fan appreciation level, which your name gets in the cards at the end of videos. And then you have the contributor level where you get the special weekly videos, the weekly update videos. So that's the best way you could support it. Adam says, what's your favorite time period in real life? I like medieval times. Yes, medieval times. And then I also like Roman history and Byzantine history. But then I also love the Civil War for US history. Yes, my favorite Sith is not Vader, I know. Samwise says, who do you think are the most underrated Bane authors and why? Okay, so everybody talks about like Weber and Ringo and Korea. And they're all great. And I've read stuff from them. I haven't read all their bibliographies, but they're all great. But everybody always talks about them. People do not talk about some of the other authors there. Jason Cordova, he's only written one Bane novel so far, but he's done some short story collections. Oh, he's so good there. Then also, I'm blanking on his name. Les Johnson is their best science. He's a great science fiction writer for them. He's an excellent science fiction writer. And then people don't talk about him, but some of his best stuff is from Bane, and that's Tim Zahn. They talk about his Star Wars stuff, but his Bane stuff's good too. Ben says, where did you go to college and masters? For both Liberty University, go Flames, woohoo, in Lynchburg, Virginia. And why do you love Elantris so much? Because the religious themes, the political themes, the great romance of Serene and Raoden, the great plot lines of the stuff of the different kingdoms, and just all of that is what makes me love it so much. Like Your Goat says, are you going to read the new Grisham book? Eventually, it's not like a reread on day one, unfortunately, because I have other books of his to read. And actually, I buy Grisham books for my dad for Christmas, because usually they come out right before Christmas, like in October. So I'm planning to buy it for my dad for Christmas, and then I'll read it eventually. Ooh, man, it's hard to get through all the chat. JD Star says, I tried several of Clavin's YA stuff this summer and liked them. Oh, that's good to know. Have you seen Two Cylinder says, have you seen Love and Death and Robots? Similar premise to Visions, but with sci-fi. I heard some of the stuff that was in there, and I was like, I don't think that's going to be as appealing to me. Some of the more heavy elements or the more R-rated stuff. Samwise says, have you read any of the Andrew D. Meredith books? No, I haven't seen people talk about Andrew D. Meredith, but the name sounds familiar. I need to get into them apparently because you say so. So I'll write them down. Roblox Gamer says, I hope we get a Lost Stars sequel. At this point, I'm starting to think it's never going to happen because I feel like the money was on the table for them to do it. They would have done it, but I don't know why. Do you ever watch Four Corners of a Page? He's a teacher as well. No, never watched that as well. Samwise says, if you want to read Claven's Fantasy, Another Kingdom, I have a used copy. I'll get with you off camera. I'm Samwise. Thank you for that. Well, Adam, you're just wrong about Chick-fil-A. Oh, you're right, Charlie. I didn't know you were on the West Coast, but yeah, they are more rare there. Although when I lived in Arizona, we had Chick-fil-A's there. Arkham says, could you rank the novelizations of the Star Wars movies? I've read Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. All right, let's see if I can remember them all. I would put them in tiers for the most part. I would say like the top tier for me is the Rogue One novelization, the Last Jedi novelization, and the Revenge of the Sith novelization. Those are like the best examples. Then you have they're fine examples. I would put the original trilogy novelizations. I would put the Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones in there, and it's fine category. And then in the bottom tier would be and I guess Solo would be in the middle tier. And then the bottom would be Force Awakens and the Rise of Skywalker, which like added so little, and I was so frustrated by. And at the absolute bottom is the Clone Wars novelization, which of the movie, which I have my review coming in the next few weeks, and that was so frustrating. Dark Lord Present says, I wanted to ask with the polls you do, how do they help since the Star Wars option wins? It's actually not so much helping. It's more so the audience, so I can tell the audience what's coming up that week. I mostly do them because I want you guys to know what's coming, and I thought do a poll. So eventually, when the Star Wars books kind of slow down next year, I'll get a better sense of what everyone's interested in. But it's mostly just so you know, hey, this is what's coming on the channel this week. Roblox says, what is your favorite era in Star Wars? I love the prequel era, but post Return of the Jedi EU is my favorite. Two Cylinder says, have you planned on reading Dungeon Crawl Carl? I would love to. Here's the problem, is I've heard that there's not much story, that it's just so focused on like the jokes and the power-up stuff. That's what Mike was saying from Mike's book reviews. And I've heard it's a lot of language. And I can stomach some, but when it's just incessant bad foul language, I'm not particularly excited about that. Let's see where I'm at. Oh man, I can't get into everything. Can you recommend a historical fiction novel set during the medieval period? Can I? That would be Pillars of the Earth. Also, I would recommend, if you don't want to do a long one like Pillars, we were talking about this a second ago, the Maurice Druon, the Iron King, the Accursed King series. Absolutely. Samwise Elantris is amazing. That's why Jonathan loves it. It's one of the few Sanderson novels that doesn't fall into his normal tropes and cliches. I would agree. Jack says, have you ever watched Vikings? No, but I believe it's also based off of the book series by Cornwell, is it? I think. So maybe I'll watch it. Presley says, who's your favorite Star Wars character? Thrawn. Absolutely. He's my favorite by far. Will you ever change your opinions of the Stover's Star Wars novels? When he writes a good one. Okay, that's going to get me in trouble. But yeah, when he writes a good one, I'll change my opinion of him. Great Books Guy says, any cons you plan to attend? Yes. Next year, I already have my tickets to go to Liberty Con, so I'll go to that one in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I plan to go, if everything works out, to Dragon Con in September. I have one more con I want to attend, and that is in Dragonsteel next year. It's usually in December. Not this year. We'll see what happens with it. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Jack says, are you surprised Disney hasn't done a Clone Wars style show for the sequel trilogy era? No, because I think they just want to give it some time, because they're like, look, there was some high opinions of that, even more opinions than the prequel era. So And George Lucas was Teflon. He was like, I don't care, do it. I don't care the opinions. Disney's a little bit, I think, more hesitant, so that's probably why. And we've got other animated stuff like the Clone Wars, so that like the new Maul series that's coming out. Adam says, very specific question. Is there a series that you absolutely hate, but there's one book in the series that's peak? So normally if I'm not liking a series, I'm just not going to finish it. So that's so norm. I don't really think I have any particular feelings like that, because normally if I'm not liking the series, I'm not going to continue to find out if there's any good ones in there. That's what I'll say. Benjamin says, do you accept gifts? Absolutely. If we can find a book, you can in your local bookstore. Yes. So if my email is somewhere on the about section of the channel, or you can message me on Twitter. Those are the two ways you can contact me about doing that. Have I watched The Matrix? I watched the first one. Was not a fan. Jack says, well, I got to go, but congratulations on 10,000. Thank you so much, Jack. Appreciate you being here. Sam Wise says, what are some popular fantasy authors everyone loves, but you don't? Well, Stephen Erickson absolutely is one a lot of people seem to love that I don't. There's a lot that I just haven't read yet. I enjoy Jim Butcher, but he's not a like a love, like I'm not at the point where I love his books so much that I need to read them on release day. Like some people, I'm like, I enjoy his books, but in terms of, and you also ask, and authors that everyone in the fantasy hates that I love, people dislike for science fiction, people dislike Kevin J. Anderson so much, and I love Kevin J. Anderson's stuff. So I love Kevin J. Anderson, and everyone seems to hate on him. For fantasy, a lot of the fantasy community hates on Terry Brooks because of Sword of Shannara being so derivative, but he's great. He's a great fantasy author. That's who my answers would be. My favorite species. Favorite species is the Twi'leks. Sam Wise says, Dungeon Crawler Carl sounds like everything I'm not interested in books. Yep, I understand. Roblox says, what's your rankings for the Star Wars films? At the top, you'd have A New Hope is my favorite, followed by Rogue One and The Force Awakens and Revenge of the Sith and Empire, Jedi, Phantom Menace, and Attack of the Clones and Solo are all in the middle. Like, yeah, they're kind of in the middle. And then towards the bottom, I would have the Clone Wars movie, and then I would have the Rise of Skywalker and The Last Jedi. Although I enjoyed the Rise of Skywalker more than some people did, apparently. Star Wars fan, I've never read Naruto. I have not. Charlie, yeah, great to see you. It will be great to see you again. Chrome says, if Elantris doesn't follow Sanderson's normal formula, I may give it a try at some point. I disliked the Mistborn trilogy and put down Way of Kings after the prologue due to the writing style. The prologue, the writing style is different after the prologue, but that's what I'll say about the Way of Kings. But yeah, Elantris is very different. Bull Run says, excited for Starfighter? Absolutely. I actually think Starfighter is going to do a lot better than the Mando and Grogu movie. I think it's going to be more exciting. It's going to be easier to get casual fans involved. Star Wars fan, what do you think of James Gunn's DCU? I enjoyed Superman, had no interest in watching Peacemaker. His humor and his like R-rated stuff, I'm like, nope, not watching. So I wasn't interested in that. But Superman I liked, and I'm excited to see what else they do in the future. Arkham says, are you a fan of the Harry Potter books and movies? Both, absolutely. Have all the series here. It's one of the best YA series, obviously, or middle grade, whatever you call it. It's one of the best series out there. It's so entertaining. Roblox says, do you prefer Maul, Shadowhunter, or Lockdown? They're so amazing. They're so fantastic. There was such revelatory reads in the last year. I would say Lockdown is more my style, but Shadowhunter is also amazing. So they're neck and neck. Raffinetti says, it's late and I've probably been asked before, but what are your thoughts on the 2 new Star Wars books announced today? I am excited. I am curious about the second one. The Legacy makes total sense. The other one, it's from Delacorte Press. I don't know why. I have a lot of questions about that, but I'll read them. Thank you so much, Raffinetti, for that. Tarquin, I'm almost caught up, guys. Tarquin says, have you played any of the Star Wars video games? If you so, you do have a favorite. I've played the Lego games, which I enjoyed. I even played some of the Battlefronts, which were fine. I played Empire at War as a kid, and I tried downloading it on my PC now, and it doesn't work. I wish they would make it available for MacBook. But I would love to read. I would love to play Empire at War. That's probably the one I had the most fun with. Where am I at? Ben says, do you have opinions about audiobooks? Is that cheating? I would say you're still experiencing the story. You're saying the same story. It's not reading in the sense that you're not reading a book, but you're getting the story. So that's really the point. So yeah, I'm not. I don't listen to audiobooks that much. I do for rereads and very occasionally for new reads, but not often. Bull Run, that is a long can of worms about The Last Jedi. There's a lot of can of worms there. Raffinate says, how would you rank the original novelizations of the Star Wars original trilogy movies? I read those so long ago. I'd be like, I guess I'd put 5 and 6 above 4 because I do not like Alan Dean Foster's style of novelizations. Adam Burgess says, have you ever played a Zelda game? I have not, but I really want to see if there's Zelda books or manga because I think that would be fun to read. Roblox Gamer says, would you say you prefer Legacy of the Force or Fate of the Jedi? Fate of the Jedi, absolutely. Legacy of the Force is fun, but it is not at the top of the Star Wars trilogies or series stuff. I would put Fate of the Jedi way higher, personally. But that's that. Samwise, what are some of the best self-pub books? If I can include like small press, like indie pub stuff, because I try to read a lot of indie stuff, I would say Overture of Shadow by Molly Waltner from Raconteur Press was fantastic. I really enjoyed the Kin War Saga by Jason Cordova, which is from Chris Kennedy Publishing, and I really enjoyed Falling into Oblivion by Aaron Payne. And my favorite self-pub is still the Low Country trilogy by Morgan Shank. That trilogy was fantastic. Star Wars fan says, are you excited for the new Harry Potter HBO series in 2027? I'll watch it, but I don't know. There's some weird decisions they made with that series, so I don't know. Benjamin Miller says, where should I start with Star Wars books? So for the EU, certainly start with the original Thrawn trilogy, the X-Wing books, and Jedi Academy to start getting into the Return of the Jedi stuff. If you're like, I just want like a standalone book just to try stuff out, Kenobi by John Jackson Miller is a great standalone book. If you want something in the canon, I would recommend A New Dawn is the first canon book. It's a great starting point. Master and Apprentice, Catalyst. The canon has a lot more standalones, so there's a lot more opportunities. Also, Thrawn is also great in the canon. Sam Wise says, so any interest in Matt Stover's Greek mythology duology in which the children of Israel are the main villains and Yahweh is the final boss? Sam Wise, why do you do this to me? Why do you do this to me? Why? No comment. Great Books Guy says, have you picked up a copy of Strange New Worlds novel Ring of Fire? I was just messaging a friend of mine today. I'm waiting for my copy still. Once it gets here, I'll read it because I'm supposed to interview the author for a podcast, but haven't been able to get it yet. Sam Wise says, even as a Stover fan, I passed on that. Yup. And all of a sudden, the fact that he would write that suddenly solidifies why I'm not as much a fan of his books. Roblox Gamer says, what are your thoughts on Dave's Thrawn movie? I just can't get here soon enough. I just want to watch that movie because I'm so excited for it, but it'll be a while. Bull Run, I have not played the Jedi series with Cal Kestis. Chrome Vader says, the only novelization of a Star Wars movie I've ever read was The Phantom Menace. I remember enjoying it, but was 14. Who knows my tastes at the time? So Phantom Menace, really weird. He gets the story, but there are some times where he just like obviously was like, I'm not doing that. And so he changed stuff. Like the way Jar Jar speaks in the novelization is totally different from the way he speaks in the movie. And I think it's because Terry Brooks just couldn't bring himself to do that. So that's why. But yeah, it's an interesting one. The Rogue One novelization is still my favorite novelization because it's so creative. It's so creative. Raffinetti says, having read A New Hope's novelization 6 months ago, it's still fresh in my mind. There's so many comparisons with Earth animals to depict Star Wars creatures. I find it cute. Samwise says, have you ever read any David Dalglish? No, but I think you and someone else referenced him, and I saw the cover for one of his books, and that made me really excited. So I do want to get to that eventually because I loved the cover. What do you think of the MCU? Star Wars fan says, what do you think of the MCU? Also, what's your favorite movie and TV series of the MCU? TV series is WandaVision. Movie is Endgame. I loved the MCU. I think they've been a little bit weak recently, but I'm hoping that they pick stuff up with Doomsday. I enjoyed the last couple of movies. I enjoyed Fantastic Four. Let's see. Your videos got me into the Star Wars novels and books as a whole. A couple years ago, I found an eBay listing for all 19 New Jedi Order books for £25. Oh my goodness, that's a fantastic deal. I hope you took it. I'm more than halfway through, and Mistborn too. I'm so glad because the New Jedi Order is great Star Wars. Bull Run, have you ever read the Percy Jackson? No, I want to get to eventually. Bull Run, well, I'm just not much of a gamer. That's why I haven't gotten to the Jedi series games. Adam says, have you ever tried to write something or so? Do you have any tips? I'm writing a short story. I have written stuff before. I just haven't published them yet. My biggest tip is to do a lot of outlining, and then you know where you're going with it, and then it's easier to write. Samwise, you've never been able to make it through an MCU TV show? Did you watch WandaVision? Because it's so good. But I understand. They're not as good. WandaVision and Loki are the top tier. Everything else is a huge step down. So I've not played the Fallout games or the Elder Scrolls. I've never read Kevin DeYoung or R.C. Sproul, but I have so my old roommate, his brother works for Kevin DeYoung, and so my old roommate has a bunch of Kevin DeYoung books and is a big fan of them. So yeah. Hi, Samwise says, have you read much classic lit, and do you have favorites? So here's my controversial opinion. I don't find classic literature as a whole as enjoyable, especially pre-1900 stuff. So it's just not as enjoyable for me, so I don't necessarily want to read it as much. That being said, my favorite classic of all time is Silas Marner by George Eliot. But yeah. Other than that, I don't read as much. I know I should, Samwise, but I just haven't. Star Wars fan says, what's your favorite Star Wars, MC, or DC? Oh, Star Wars by far. William Allen Webb, great to see you, man. Says, when you want to try and publish, let me know. Thank you so much. Absolutely. When I do publish, I have several people I'm going to contact to try to get it out there, because I do want to publish at least with a publisher. I don't want to just full on indie. I want to use, whether it's a big publisher or a small one, I do want to do some. Let's see where I'm at. Bull Run, I've not watched the Fallout show. Raffinetti says, do you possess the Shakespearean English Star Wars novelizations? I have read one or two of them when my brother got into them, because my brother never reads books, yet he read those Shakespeare Star Wars books. I was like, what's up here? Why would you do that? I would love to. I just haven't gotten to them yet. Maybe that's what I can find some at some bookstores eventually. Have I read? Benjamin Miller says, have you read? Never read Little Women. It's great. I should get to that probably. What's more important, character or plot? I read books for the plot, and then that's a meme. I know that's a meme. I do genuinely read the books because of the plot, and then I get hooked because of the characters. Pilgrim's Progress I read a long time ago, and apparently it was the kid version of it, like it was an adaptation, not the actual version, so I need to get to the actual version. I'm going to wrap up the last few here, and then we'll head out because this is a bit longer than I normally do. Chrome Vader says, in game, which moment hit harder, Iron Man's end or Captain America standing up to Thanos? Captain America standing up to Thanos hit, but so did the moment that hit the most was him dancing with Peggy at the end. Let's see. William Allen Webb, here's a fast series you might enjoy. Amber by Roger Zelazny. I am kicking myself. I saw a bind up of the Amber series by Roger Selazny, and I think it's the Amber series, or maybe it's something else. But I saw a bunch of Robert Selazny books in a bind up and didn't buy them, and I'm kicking myself for that. Great books guy. Sorry. Dark Lord Press says, can you recommend any books other like Elantris that deal with the same themes? Um, the Judas Blossom series from Stephen Arion deals with some of the same themes. I think that the Rune Lord series does that too. That's just me. Great books guy. Randomly curious if you have thoughts on Orbit as a publisher. I've read some of their books. I don't read as much by them, but what I've read, I've loved. So yeah. Rafa says I read Crash of Fate recently at the dollar store. I enjoyed it at the time. I need to reread it to get more thoughts on it. All right, guys. This was great. I'm sorry that I can't answer more questions because we've been going for a long time, but this was a great live stream. Thank you so much for everyone for coming. I'll try to do one eventually, but maybe it'll be another 10 months. So thank you so much for subscribing and for watching. And if you haven't subscribed, please do, because I got a lot of content that already out coming soon. So see y'all later.